Welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. My name is Tyler. I am your host, and on today's episode, we got a friend of mine. We go way back to the beginning stages of recovery. Some interesting, fun stories there. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Jesse to you. So, Jesse, go ahead and introduce yourself.
How's it going, everyone? My name's Jesse. I'm been in and out of recovery for a good portion of my life. Like you said, I mean, we met a long while back, but like my story, it changed and adapted, and then we kind of, our paths met again, which is pretty cool. I love that. I mean, the first time that I remember getting introduced to recovery myself was whenever I'm 18. I'm 41 now, so that was 23 years ago, and I was still in high school at this time. And realistically, the only reason why I even found out about recovery was because I got in trouble. And
it's usually how it starts with everyone,
right?
Yeah.
And so like I was like, okay, what will get me a slap on the wrist? Because like I don't want to get repercussions, never, right. For anything that I do. So that was like the big thing, and I looked into something and found out like, well, if I go to rehab, maybe that will give me a slap on the wrist type of thing. It worked for sure, but I mean, I didn't really learn anything because I wasn't going for recovery. I was going because like I wanted to get out of what I was into, and but it's funny too because like the first time I learned about recovery was down here. There was that rehab that closed down here. I'm not gonna make any plugs about it, but like.
They're no longer around. Nothing to plug.
Right,
they're closed.
Okay, so
they got shut down.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like it was cool though, because like that was something that gave me an idea of something different. You know what I mean?
So you were 18 when you first got introduced?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still in high school too. It was funny because like I had to. I only got a week. To go to rehab because I was still in high school at the time. I was a senior, and people knew that I was pretty much a piece of shit. So they were wondering why I was gone this long. So my thing whenever I came back, I was like, yeah, I went to jail. I didn't want to tell people I went to rehab.
So at that age though, right? Because you're still in high school. So if you needed rehab, so you were jumping into the heavy shit then,
yes.
Or were you going to rehab? Because sometimes people come into rehab and it's for like the dumbest shit. It's like, oh well, I got caught with some weed or something like that. But you were like full blown like heroin and an op.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. At this time, so okay. Like my whole like high school career, I was not, the only relationships I was concerned about was my relationships with drugs. And like I would like
I feel that.
I would seriously I would like fall in love with something. Yeah. I would use and abuse it. And then like eventually I would get sick of it. So then like I would try to fall in love with something else. And like eventually that kept stepping me to different things to, at that time, Oxycontins were coming out pretty hard, and that pushed me right into it. Like my regular drug or weed dealer, he was like, "Hey, you want to try some of these?" And I was like, "I don't know what they are, but sure, like you tell me they're gonna fuck me up, I'm gonna take them."
Right.
But yeah, man, like I don't know, that stuff made me spiral. I know that. I was working at a gas station, and they had like company cards, and I would like if a company would come in or a big truck would come in that wasn't the company, and they would fill up their car for like $40-$50, I'd use different company cards, just charge it, and then if they were paying with cash, just take the cash. And that's how I was like making like this little hustle thing. And eventually, too many times of doing that catches
they
up.
get you, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I was trying to get like out of trouble with that, because I knew for sure that I could get in some real trouble with that. And so I just basically said I had a problem, and that's why I told the judge too. And believe it or not, like I mean, I know a lot of people have hate for police and the court system and stuff like that, but truthfully, a lot of the times they help me. Like my probation officer throughout, I had the same one over and over again, and she was always there for me, man. Like she knew that I had a problem, and believe me, she wasn't like easy on me by any means. Like if I was fucking up, I would get it, like, and that's understandable. Like I should,
Right.
But like if I was trying, she would work with me, So like,
I mean, sometimes, and I see it a lot now because, like, working in a rehab, I see a lot of probation officers. So you see both spectrums, right? You see those POs that have just had enough. They're just like, man, I'm just tired of dealing with this kid. Every time I deal with them, like, I'm just constantly doing paperwork, so we're going to make them jump through hoops. And then you see those POs that, man, they try. We have one here. And she really, really goes all out for everybody that's like on her caseload. And they'll be like, oh, every time I deal with her, I'm like, well, bro, you should probably check yourself, because like this girl hasn't thrown you in jail in like the 7 times that she should have thrown you in jail. Like she actually cares, so. Sometimes the POs, they do actually care.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of them are social workers. You got to figure, like, all you need is a social worker degree. You know what I mean? So let me fix this light real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
But yeah, man, like, I mean, that's my story for sure. Like, she was always, like, even, like I said, like if I messed up a lot, like she would, do something about that. But
sure.
Even sometimes whenever I was messing up a lot, she would give me like ultimatums, like rather than like, just slapping the stick down, type of thing.
Right.
Because like, I mean, I got woke up in the drunk tank one time by her, and she's like, this is actually a big turning point too, because like whenever I was in there, I used to do this car shopping thing where like late at night I'd go around, and if you had your door unlocked, then yours was mine, type of thing. So I think
most people did that when they were kids. Every kid goes through that. Like, hey, let's check out a car. At least this area.
But for some reason, like that night, I was having this internal battle, which, is always a thing during addiction. And I was telling myself, like, don't do this, man. Like, just go home and go to sleep. But there's that other part of me that was like, yo, man, but like, when you wake up, you don't have anything, and you don't have any money to get anything. So what are you going to do about it? So, like, so I was walking past this car, and they had it was on, but there was nobody around, and there was a purse in the front seat, and I was like, oh, and so I helped myself to it, and I remember like they seen me take it and yelled, hey, my purse. I took off running, jumped in a bush, was trying to like figure out what was inside the purse, but I was in a bush. So, like, I couldn't see shit, and it was dark out, So, like, I got out, I had a backpack on, I threw it in there, and I was, I got far enough away where I was just, like, kind of strolling, and there was a guy in front of me and a guy in back of me, and typically at that time of night, that's not normal, because, like, Meadville shuts down, it's, like, a ghost town at that time, and, it was her sons, and they asked me what was in my book bag, I told them it was none of their business, but they made it their business, as they rightfully should. But I remember even then, like, I was like, so entitled. Like, I got into the cop car, and I was telling them that I wanted to press charges because they beat me up a little bit, stuff like that, and all this, dude. And the cop's just like, shut the fuck up, dude, like what's wrong with you? But like I was saying, so my probation officer woke me up in the drunk tank, and this was a question that she asked me: "What is wrong with you?" And I had no words.
Yeah, I always hate that question because it's never what's wrong. Like I say this on almost every episode. It cracks me up because that's always the question people ask us, right? And I hope that the people that watch this, because sometimes people are watching it, the so-called professionals. So like I'm hoping that they hear that and they're like, yeah, why are we doing that, right? Because the question is always like, what happened to you, right? It's not so much what's wrong with you, because Jesus Christ, if we knew that, like, we would have fixed this shit when we were kids. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's always like, what happened to you that caused you to go down this road, right? Like, I hate the victim mentality, but at the end of the day, some of us get stuck in a survival mode and we don't know anything different. You know what I mean? And like,
very true.
Just trying to survive, So it's like, man, what happened to you that made you get stuck in this mode? I always hate that. But I mean, at least you recognized it then, like, yeah, right. I don't know.
Yeah, and that was the thing, was like I was just like awestruck, because like it's such a it should be such a simple question, you know what I mean? But like truthfully, I had no answers. Like I didn't know, right. Like I guess I had like I was saying that first time that I went to rehab, like a glimmer of a glimpse of something, that may have, but like I was only there for a week, and right. Truthfully, like I was 18, everybody else was probably in their 30s or older, and like that was a quick way for me to like separate myself, because like for real, like I was like, I'm not like them, like right. Like look at these guys, and but that then to follow that up, she gave me that ultimatum of going to jail or going to rehab. So this was my second time going to rehab. I was 19 at this time, and I was taking things a little bit differently, because I think partially because of that question and wanting to understand, because like I always want to understand shit, and right. there's something inside of me that always wants to understand more, so like I'm always trying to seek more knowledge, more something, I mean, maybe that's the addict mentality. I want more, I always want more.
Right.
So like, I don't know, like I started going, I stayed at that, it was that same facility, and I stayed for like the long-term version of that facility, because, I was out of school at this time. I wasn't really doing anything productive at this moment in my life. So I figured I might as well, and that's when I got my first rehab romance. So that was cool.
Always works out great.
Yeah, never advisable, that's for sure. But like at that facility too, we were separated. We weren't allowed to talk. Like they were pretty strict about that. But we would like pass notes type of thing. And then like we had a canoe trip, and on that canoe trip we got to actually talk, because there was like some times where we would be separated off and stuff. But I mean, there really nothing really transpired out of that for the most part. It was just more of a distraction, if anything,
Yeah,
like of why I was really there. It was just like it did. I mean, it made sense. I mean, I was just young and dumb, and she was pretty, and I was just like, okay, like type of thing.
Yeah, I think that happens to most everybody.
Right.
When you come to rehab, I know when I went to rehab, I met this girl in detox, and it was like, all right, and then she's like, here's my calling, here's what are the calling cards?
Oh,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Remember when we used to have those on the payphones?
Yep.
She's like, you can use it whenever. I'm like, bet. I'm like, well, I guess I'm talking to this girl now. And like in all reality, I knew like I don't want anything to do with this chick, but like it'll work right now. She's pretty. She just gave me her calling card. Like, right. Yeah, I'm a piece of shit anyway, so I'm a user.
I think the thing too is like we're so beaten down in our self-esteem and stuff that like anything that's pretty that's gonna wink at you, you're like, yeah, like that makes me feel good, like, and that's what we want in those moments, like especially early on, we want to feel good, because like
we feel like shit
100%, and like we don't have anything to mask any of that anymore, and it kind of, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like for me, getting clean at any time sucked. I did not like it at any time. So like, but yeah, I mean, like moving on from that, I did kind of start to take it a little bit serious, but like not as much. I was starting to go to 12-step programs at this time.
You did really good though, because like I know that would have been around the time that I met you, and like, because like you were heavily involved in the program. Like I remember, because you guys made me go to. That's actually funny. So like, I had just so like I had just got out of rehab, right, and I relapsed. I went on like this was my final relapse, but I went on this week-long, it was like a week-long bender, right? I had totaled my car, everything, and like I woke up. I'm like, man, I gotta change something, And then a mutual friend of ours, Adam.
Yep.
So Adam called me and was like, I'm gonna go to this retreat down in Butler, and I was like, what the fuck is a retreat? He's like, we're gonna go camping. I was like, with sober people? He's like, yeah. He's like, you're gonna stay in a tent with Jesse. I was like, I like Jesse. I was like, all right, man, fuck it, why not, right?
Right.
And I told him, I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this. He said, bro, there'll be tons of girls down there. We got tons of them staying at our campsite, right? And that was my selling point, right? Like I got okey-doked, right? Because I was like, all right, well, I'll go to this campsite thing because like I'm gonna meet these girls. And then I get there and I had to sleep in a tent with you. And I was like, where's these fucking girls at? And then like there was none of them. Like I'm like, oh man, like this is some bullshit. Like you guys okey-doked me to get sober. Oh fuck.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing, though. Is like, I mean, sometimes we need to give that selling point. I mean, we're natural born hustlers, man. Like all of us, I believe. Just because of the lifestyle that we lived, we've learned to kind of do what is necessary to be able to get what is we want.
Yeah, like adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
So like you were doing really good though. Like you were heavily involved. So like. You ended up relapsing though.
Right. Yeah.
So like, walk us through that. Like, what happened?
I think it was. So this is one hard thing to like completely understand in my mind because, like you said, I was doing everything that was asked of me in recovery. But I think what it was and it's nobody's fault. It was kind of goes back to that whole like I want to feel good thing where like a pretty girl winks at you and you feel good, so that you gravitate towards that. So like they were giving me praise, man. Like they were everything that I was young and I was like up and coming, like doing whatever I needed to do and like getting, like you said, heavily involved, and people were praising me for that, and I loved it. Like I never felt that in my life. Like that wasn't a thing for me growing up.
Affirmation is the world's strongest drug. It really is.
And so like I think I got like kind of stuck in that, and I don't know if I was necessarily recovering, because like some of the stuff that I was doing step work. Yeah, I was doing stuff, but like I think it was just more like like base layer, surface layer shit, you know, like it wasn't like I wasn't trying to get any deeper. I wasn't trying to change really, you know, like I was trying to, but not trying to, you know,
Yeah.
like if that makes sense.
It does.
But
it's
like
the ego factor,
it,
right?
it
like,
was,
because like
yeah.
what you're explaining, like, you know, you're getting all these praises, you're doing good. It's like, damn, like, look at me go.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, I don't need to change all this shit because, like, these people are justifying that I'm cool over here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's that ego factor that usually takes us back out.
And, like, I felt like I was doing the right things because, like you said, I was getting involved. People were asking me to speak at different places and stuff like that, too, like different functions and retreats and stuff. So I was like, you know, I'm doing good. You know, like that, in my mind, I'm doing good. But I just didn't know, you know, I didn't know. And so life finally, like, kind of caught up to me because at this time, I was with a girl who was actually my daughter's mother. We had my daughter Jazz, and she wasn't like us, you know, she wasn't an addict. But she would go out to, and we were young at this time, she would go out to the bars and stuff. Well, come to find out, she's like cheating on me and stuff, and I didn't know how to handle that, you know, like that was like heartbreaking for me, you know, and I didn't know, and the ego thing, man, like the ego thing played a role because my ego was telling me, don't say this stuff at a meeting. You know, like don't do that because you're going to tarnish who you are, type of thing. And but in reality, like that would have probably been good for people. You know, like it would have been like, oh, like he's feeling this way, going through some real life shit, and he's still going through. You know, but like in my mind, like I don't know, like I made this. I wore another mask, I guess, you know, like at this point. Like I'm a master of facade, you know, so like this was my new Mr. Recovery mask, you know, type of thing. And I didn't want to people to see like that broken side and behind it, you know. And
so I hope, right? So like we'll hit right there cuz that's like a perfect thing, right? And like I hope people listening to this are hearing that, right? That always frustrates me, right? Because I've been through that, and I see like people. I'm working at rehab. Like I'll get a lot of people that'll be like, "Man, you had 5, 10, 15 years sober, and then like you relapse. Like, tell me about that." And it's always the same thing, right? And this is where I think sometimes in the 12-step programs. It comes from, like, we come from nothing, right? And, like, when we come from nothing, now we're getting all this acclamations, like, you're doing great, you're doing good, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then it's like, shit, I'm not allowed to fuck up, right? And, like, that's always the thing. Like, I'll see people that'll be like, oh, everything's good, da-da-da-da-da, and they're always good. And I'm like, Like, I understand you got, like, 10 years, but, like, not every day's rainbows and sunshine in recovery, right? And, like, you're allowed to have those bad days. And, like, that's just something that I hope that people understand is, like, just because your clean time, I always tell people, like, throw the fucking clean time out. Like, clean time don't matter, right? I hate that shit. Don't count my days. I don't want to, you know? Like, I don't want to. We all have today, and that's what we're living for, is just to stay sober today, right? So, like, if you have a bad day, like, let's sit down, let's talk about it, let's figure it out, because life shows up. And, like, part of recovery, right, in my opinion, part of recovery is learning how to be normal, right? How to not, because, like, our coping skill is like heroin, right? So, like, it's learning how to not go back to that coping skill, not how to not pick up drugs or alcohol as the form of that. So when we can get to the point, like, I think when we can get to like nah, man, like, I'm struggling today. Okay, you're allowed to struggle. So how do we get through it where we don't have to revert back to drugs and alcohol, And sometimes that gets lost, just with what you're explaining, right? That whole, like, I'm doing good and I feel like I can't share this in a meeting because I don't want, I want other people to feel that I'm still doing good when you're dying on the inside, but, like, looking good on the outside. What are we really accomplishing?
Yeah, and I want to say, too, like, that's nobody's fault but mine.
No.
Yeah,
It's not.
Sure.
It's definitely. And it's internal.
I think
right?
that's definitely, and you're right. That's a common threat, with people.
Yeah.
And I think that all ties it right because that's the thing. Like I was saying, like I'd never felt this stuff before. Like I wasn't getting, like, when a lot of my growing up. Like, maybe early on I was getting that because, like, I grew up without my father, and my grandfather was like my father. But he, like, loved me. Like, the unconditional love that I show today is from him. Like, he showed me how to unconditionally love. And so, like, I will always, whenever I come back to recovery and stuff like that, because it's hard for me to love whenever I'm not in recovery, but, like, whenever I come back, that's what I start to practice again. I mean, and yeah, there's definitely in recovery other people who have shown me that too, but but he's like a shining example for me. But he passed whenever I was young, and then, like, my stepfather was the total opposite of that. He was like love with conditions,
right.
So it was hard because I'm not, like, really a manly man. Like, I don't do hunting. I don't really play sports. I'm artistic. Like, I love to draw. I love to I'm a professional piercer, so, like, that's the way that I express art now. And it's like that was pushed deep down inside of me because my stepdad made me feel that part of me was wrong, that I should be more manly, and so that was kind of fucked up, and I truthfully, like, I didn't even realize how deep down that was stuffed until I started piercing. It was wild because, like, I started piercing and I started realizing, like, how artistic this was, and then that started coming up and I realized, wow, like, I haven't done anything artistic in so long because, like, I was told it was not supposed to be a thing for me, and so then that was, like, a freeing moment for me and this time in recovery because, like, it kind of, like, brought a more authentic part of myself out, like I was saying, like, this time around, like, I got to, like, dig a little bit deeper on things on deeper levels and pull things out that, like, there was times whenever I would, like, be driving home and just bawling my eyes out about something and it was okay, like, right. It was okay for that because, like, I wanted to do something different this time because my friends were dying. I was gonna die too, like, there's no doubt about it. Like this last time, despite me not doing the things I used to do, there was just a matter of time before I would get into the things that I used to do.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's crazy because, like, when all that was happening with my daughter's mom, I ended up getting this, like, if you can't beat them, join them mentality, and so I started going out with her and drinking, and that's whenever it started spiraling. And the wild shit is because, like, I always want to go back to what I want,
Yeah, of course.
And that's typically the dope, and but at this time I had been so removed from all that and from the people and from the scene that I didn't know how to get that anymore. So I faked an injury in my testicle.
Okay.
and so like I'm malingering, you know, like it's crazy, you know, and I'm playing this whole, like, I should have won a Grammy for this shit, you know, like I'm playing this role, I'm not working, I'm getting disability because of it, like, I don't know, please don't, like, I don't know if this is something that's going to hit me in the law, but anyways, it is what it is, you know. If it does, then I should pay for my repercussions of that. But
it was too long ago.
Okay.
You're good on statute.
but yeah, like it was crazy, man. Like I my mind made me do all this stuff because like I wanted to get something, and then that kind of pushed me. I don't know. I guess I wiggled my way back into that lifestyle again. Next thing I know, like. It comes probably, I would say probably like 18 months it took to where like I was at my rock bottom again, and this time around. But that was just because like it was just a long draw type of thing to get back into the scene. But like I just remember like I'm in this shithole apartment because now me and the reason why I started using again aren't together anymore, you know. I mean, she's not the reason. I'm the reason, but like that in my head, like I needed to do that so that way I could save what we had. And I'm sitting there, and it's weird because like, you know, I had lost my mom during that recovery stint, and to cancer, and in that moment, like I was just like wishing she was there, you know, because like I was just in so much pain. I had lost all hope in myself because like, how do I go 5.5 years in recovery thinking that I'm doing everything that I need to do, but not getting like and ending up where I'm ending up, you know. Right. And so it was I was full of pain, and I just remember like I don't know what I believe, but like I felt like she was there, you know, and in that moment. And so like I knew what I needed to do. I needed to go back to meetings, right, or something, you know. So like I called this 1-800 number, which I thought was a helpline. It ended up actually being a rehab down in Florida. And so like luckily I had a decent enough job at this time and had good insurance. And they asked me what insurance I had, and they were like, we'll call you right back. And they called me back within like 20 minutes, and they were like, we got you a flight in the morning, you know, to come on down. And I was like, well, can you make it the afternoon, because like I have to tell my work and everything, you know, what's going on. So that's what they did, and I ended up going down to Florida for a little while. This time I still didn't really, I don't know, I was trying. Everything was different. Like I said, I was very hopeless in this time frame. I was trying to do something different because like I felt like I got too involved, and like I was saying, I was trying to understand all of this and trying to like piece it all together and what I could do differently but still be involved. But like realistically, I wasn't like doing much of anything. I was just there, you know. I met somebody down there. I ended up living down there for like 6 years, but I met somebody down there. I ended up getting a surgery done, and instead of telling them that I was in recovery, I was just like, you know, I'm having this surgery done. I need something, you know. So like, I started taking that, and then it was like no really turning back from that point. And that kind of, it was just like, just normal, you know, regular stuff. I did meet some people that I was using with, but like, I told them, I was like, look, man, like I'm a heroin addict. Just don't, if you see me trying to seek out something like that, please just stop me. Cause I truly, inside of me, I wanted to die, but I truly didn't want to die. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I wanted to be able to live and enjoy my life and everything. There's many moments whenever I'm like, you know, what can I do to take my life, you know, type of thing. But then, like, I would be like, one, it's either too painful. I'm kind of a wuss whenever it comes to stuff like that, you know, like, I don't want to be in pain. And then two, like, my daughter, you know, like, how selfish is that for me to take me away from her, you know, like, she deserves, even if I'm a shithead at that moment, she deserves something, you know, out of me.
Well, what's interesting though is like you're sliding back into your addiction, right? Mm-hmm. And like you hear this all too often, where like everybody will change the course of their addiction, right? Where it's like, now I'm going to substitute for alcohol, or now I'm going to substitute for, I'm just going to do cocaine here and there, or this, that, and the other thing. And then it's those words, as long as I don't go back to heroin or whatever the drug is, right? As long as I don't go back to meth, it's not going to get as bad as it was. Even though you're currently living miserable because you've substituted it, you're right back into the addiction, just a new face has emerged. You know what I mean? Like, it's always interesting to me how we do that.
Yeah, and that was the thing, too, and I was, like, justifying it because, like, realistically, like, that's all, I was just drinking and smoking weed. So I'm like, you know, like, that's, for me, that's, like, low tier. You know? that's lower level. So like, why can't I do that? You know, like, and that's how, like, before, whenever I did relapse, in my head I justified it by saying, well, I know about these spiritual principles, why can't I practice them while I'm drinking? You know, like, and stuff. But and this time around, when I'm in Florida, my life is better, you know, at this time. Like, I have a good job. I'm in my mind living a good life. So like that time whenever I was drinking before, I was like, it wasn't a good time. You know, I found out that she was cheating on me, blah, blah, that and everything. So everything was crumbling. So I figured if things were on the upscale, why couldn't I keep that going and still drink, you know? It definitely wasn't the case, that's for sure, you know what I mean? But you know, it ended up being where we kind of separated. We were getting into arguments and stuff. So we're at this point now where COVID is starting to show its face, you know. And so, like, I'm doing restoration work down there. It was me, my wife's cousin's company, and his roommate, and it's just the three of us, and we're making bank. You know, like, we're making, like, good money at this time because it's just the three of us and we're doing all the work, and so it's pretty nice. But then, like, it drops off completely because of that. You know, people are starting to get scared. You know, like, it's worrisome. You know, there's something out there that people don't know what it is. So I'm still waking up early, like I'm going to work, but when I know that we don't have any work, I'm like, well, I'll just tip the bottle then, you know, like, so that started this and I had already been, like, drinking pretty steadily. I mean, I won't lie, like, I was, while even out on work, I would have a Yeti cup and I would have some vodka in it and like, would be, like, sipping on that and, like, hitting my pen and stuff, you know, to kind of keep going. Because I wasn't really, like, I would just drive around and check on job sites because we had people that were, that we hired in to do the restoration part. We would do more of the demolition part and more of the, like, quotes and stuff like that. And so, like, I was just pretty much foreman, you know, just driving around, checking on shit, you know, getting a little tipsy on the way, you know, and stuff. Thank God I didn't hurt nobody or myself, you know, in the meantime. But so I had already developed a habit on this, and so it just kind of spiraled at this point, and things weren't looking good at this time too, because this is the crazy thing to me, and this is what I recognized the last time I was in rehab was I call it the perfect stranger, and I don't recognize it, but like there's all these changes that are happening that everybody else can recognize, but myself.
Right.
And I think that I'm normal and myself and that I'm just me, you know. But like in reality, what they're telling me is truth, you know. Yeah. And so like and it's weird because I don't see that until like after I stop everything, and then I can look back and I'm like, shit, they were all right. Well, like what? Why couldn't I see that in that moment? But I mean, I guess it's part of that delusion and grandeur and all that stuff that we have while we're out there thinking that we're something that we're not. But I'm like I'm truly like super hopeless now, like going into it, and this is during COVID where I'm going into this rehab. Thank God too, like I didn't have insurance, but I met some people down there while I was in recovery, and I knew one worked for a rehab, and so I reached out to him and I said, look man, I'm like, can you get me in? I'm like, I don't have insurance, I don't really have money, like is there something you can do? And so he talked to the owner, and they sponsored me to go in.
Nice.
So thank you for them, you know, that truly helped save my life, you know, for sure, because like I didn't know where or what I would have come about, you know, from that, because I was spiraling hard, and I separated from my ex-wife at that time, and it was just it was getting bad, like it was getting worse, and so I go in there, and mind you, this is Florida, so it's like it's hot every day. I'm wearing a black jumpsuit pretty much, and a black beanie, and like I'm sitting in the back, and I'm just sitting like this, and I'm not like because I don't know. I'm kind of over it, you know, like I'm over everything.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like all these people later they tell me this, but like they were like, shit man, this guy's gonna be trouble, you know. The different clients that were in there, they were like worried about me, and they called me Sitting Bull because I would just sit there arms crossed saying nothing, and then
that's probably good though, because realistically, like, you know, I see that issue a lot too, where it's like, man, you've been through rehab enough. How many times? You're not going to learn anything new.
Right.
The only thing you're going to do is maybe hear something that puts a new perspective on things, right? So it's like, maybe just shut the hell up and listen to what's being around you, instead of like, because I know I get frustrated like when I hear people, they'll come to rehab and I've been to 27 rehabs, I've been in and out of this program, I know what to do. I'm like, well then why aren't you fucking doing it? You know what I mean? Like that's the irritating part, where it's like you might know what to do, you just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe listen.
And I think
that might have been good for you.
Like that was in my head. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I truly didn't. Like in like I was saying, this is probably the most hopeless I've ever felt in my life. You know, like because I mean geological changes. Trying to try different, you know, all the things that are talked about in any of the books. You know?
You tried all of it.
Yeah,
all of it.
I love loopholes, man. Like I want to find a loophole. Whenever I was on probation, like to use successfully without getting caught, I would like timetable stuff. So like I can use this substance, and whenever I go to get my piss test, it will be out of my system, which it worked. You know, so like I would find these loopholes to be able to use successfully, you know, but like there was just nothing that I could do, because like I'm the type of person that I want to burn everything to the ground whenever something's not going my way. So I will burn
feel it.
I will burn it. Like, and I won't stop. Like, I will just go. And then, like, and I think the thing that sucks, too, is because I'm so used to being able to rise out of that. You know, like, I've burned it down so many times that, like, I've rose out of it before. Why can't I rise out of it at this time?
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that I'm grateful for this time around is, like, I realized that, you know, and instead of, like, because there's still moments, like, even now, like, I want to burn shit to the ground. Like, if something's not going my way, or if, like, things are getting frustrating in life, I'm like, light the match, light it up, you know. But truthfully, like, I come to realize that I'm good at doing that at new beginnings, but, like, I've never been good at maintaining, you know, like, so, like, why not practice that? You know, why not practice some maintenance, you know, and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what I started doing, and I started, like, finding things that I could do for myself, because, like, I mean, every single time that I've gone to in and out of recovery, I've gone to 12-step meetings, and I'm not gonna say, like, they're not helpful, because they are, because there's a lot of good information, there's a lot of good things that are in there, there's a lot of good people that are in there too. I mean, I wouldn't have met you ever, you know, if we wouldn't have met in that. So, like, but the cool thing too is I know, for me at least, that there's going to be a point where more of my life is going to show up, which is going to give me less of that. But I can take what I have learned from there and other sources and apply it to where more of my life is showing up. And I think, like, while that was transitioning, because, like, I took things really, really slow this time, because I was capable of doing that, like, with COVID and stuff, like, and having that good job. I was getting some extra money, so, like, and then whenever I moved back, I decided to move back up this way for my daughter. And it was funny because, like, my counselor was, like, thinking that it was selfish of me to do that I needed to, like, go to additional stuff. And I was like, I think really, like, me doing, like, a halfway house or something after this would be more selfish, because, like, I'm avoiding my responsibilities.
Yeah.
You know, like, why not, like, and it goes with what you're saying. Like, this is my 5th rehab. Like, why should I have to? There's enough that I have gathered. You know, like, I've gathered enough, and so I made it a point. Well, she actually had me ask people around me if they thought that the decision for me to move up there was a good idea. So I did, because, like, we had the counselors that would only Zoom us because of COVID. We had 2 facilitators that would come in all the time, beautiful women that were just giving us everything, you know, like, it was great that they were so willing to come in for us, you know, like, they sacrificed their own well-being, because we were getting people from all over, like, down there, like, because it was, I don't know how many rehabs were taking people, but we were taking people. We get people from New York, Connecticut, you know, all that. We're like, there's mad growth in COVID, and people don't know what's going on with COVID. And they were coming in still, and they were giving us love, you know, and that was, that's beautiful.
Our rehab kept getting hit with it, because we stayed open, and, like, we'd get people in, and, like, that was the thing. They'd be like, we want to come to rehab, and we're like, understand that you might catch COVID tomorrow. Like, we don't know, because nobody knows what the hell this thing is. And, you know, majority of the people are just like, yeah, I don't even care, bro. Like, I'm just dying out here, so I might as well die in there. So, you know, which, I mean, is good, right?
Yeah.
So you made it back home.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, so I eventually, I had a Kia Soul packed to the brim with all of my stuff. The rest of the stuff I just had my ex-wife get rid of. I was served divorce papers while I was in there, so we took care of that. And then I come back. My sister allows me to stay with her at the beginning and everything. I had started, because one of the cool things about the COVID time too was a lot of the meetings were on Zoom. Mm-hmm. So like I had already started developing, because I already had decided that I was moving back. In the rehab where I was at, there was different steps. There was like the first month was more intensive, you're just like there. Then we moved to a different facility for the last 2 months, and at that point you could get your phone, you could go out and try to seek for a job, stuff like that. But with my phone, I was able to grab connections and get like reconnected with recovery and going to Zoom meetings and stuff like that. So I started like already developing those relationships before I even moved up here again. And then I started going to meetings again because those started back opening up and doing all that. This time really I wasn't questioning anything like I was that last time, where like I was trying to like understand. I was just like, I'm just gonna go through like and do whatever I can, like and try to do. I wanted to do something different, but I didn't know what it was at that time. You know what I mean? And so like I met this. It was actually this lady that helped, who was a good catalyst in my recovery. She was a business owner up in Meadville, and somebody in recovery that I knew introduced me to her. And so like I would talk to her because like she never went to 12-step meetings before, so it was like a different perspective on things. I also started reading a lot more, digging into like different literatures, because like I wanted like different perspectives on things and to like open my mind a little bit more on how I could go about my recovery this time, type of thing.
So how do you do it this time?
So,
right, because how long have you been clean now?
4.5 years.
All right, so in this 4 years, because you've stepped away from the 12-step program,
right,
yes. Which is not a bad thing,
right?
Like, let's make that clear now, and we'll cover that briefly here. Is like, I do not necessarily believe. I believe the programs of recovery are there for a couple different sets of people, mm-hmm. right? And there's the people that life happens, they fall deep into whatever it is, they use a little, maybe too much, they come in, they kind of put their life back together, they fall back, they're fine, right? And you see those people all the time, right? Where they'll come in, I got DUIs, I was struggling, and they fall back. They kind of learn a little bit about themselves and why they're doing that, kind of get out of that stuff, and they're able to still drink every now and then, they're fine. Then there's those group of people that completely cross the line into addiction, and there's really no coming back. There's no coming back and like, this is basically what you need to maintain life. And then there's those people that like, and what I believe recovery should be, and this is just my own personal opinion, is I believe that the program of recovery should take you to a place where now you have normal life shit going on, right? And like something you said earlier about like, well, I had got my life to a point where like now my life is more important, right? I feel that that's what recovery is. Mm-hmm. When I first got sober, man, I didn't have a life. I didn't have shit, right? It was, all I knew was drugs and alcohol. And it was, yes, I'm going to go to a meeting every day. Yes, I'm going to every single function. Yes, I'm doing this stuff because I don't know what else to do, right? Then you stay clean long enough and you start building a life, and it's like, oh, now I got a career. Now I got my family back. Now I got this relationship. Now I got this, and I got this and that, and like all these things are going on, but we still hold this shit in place, right?
Right.
We still have the support group. We still have the friends. We still have like this shit that holds you in mental stability, more or less, right? And I don't think we talk enough about that. Like, I think, like, we talk about in recovery, like, I don't know, man. I see some of these people, and I've been to a lot of meetings, and where I've seen people where I'm like, but you ain't changed. Like, you sitting here telling me that you're 30 years, and, like, I still hear the same shit out of your mouth that I heard when I was first walked into this program. Maybe you need to make a new change, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, I'm with you. I think at some point, part of recovery is learning how to build a foundation, and then learning how to do normal fucking life, you know? I always hate when, you know, somebody gets their life together and it's like, well, I ain't seen this person in 3 years. They're out getting high. And I'm like, no, they're fine. Like, they're living a normal fucking life. Just because you don't see them over here doesn't mean that they're not okay. Right? And, like, there's so many paths to recovery. And you have to define what recovery means to you. And, like, I hate that we try to segregate it and try to say, this is the only way. And if you don't do it this way, you're not in recovery. I hate those people, because, like, tell me I'm not in recovery, and, like, you can go fuck yourself. I'll never talk to you again. Right? Like, you're a negative, toxic person. Do not tell people what recovery is. Like, I hate that, because recovery is, well, okay, what are you doing right now? Is it better than what you were doing? And is it going to continue to be better?
See,
you know what I mean?
And that's the thing, too, is, like, I mean, and not to blow up your spot, but you have a master's, you know, in psychology, and you're here saying, like, how that's, you know, there's no defined recovery. Right. As long as you're doing better and doing something that works for you, that's recovery, you know, and you have people, like you were saying, that don't have credentials, to say the least. And
well, you got life experience though.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
that goes in there, but I mean, you gotta say, like,
I guess let me rephrase this, right? Because I guess I get their point of view, right? Because, like, you have to look at it from all angles, right? Is like, I look at recovery, like, what are you doing, right? Like my life today, I know, is in recovery. Like, I might not be able to dedicate all my time to, like, certain things, but, like, I'm not using drugs, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing criminal activities, like, I'm maintaining a career, I maintain these relationships, I have healthy relationships, I'm doing these things that are in recovery, that are recovery related. I have these things in place where it's, you know, I have my support group. I have, like, all these people in place that, like, when I'm mentally not okay, I have those people to lean on, right? I mean, I still go to meetings from time to time. It's like, I'll still be like, okay, I gotta go to this meeting because, like, I'm struggling today. So, like, there's still those avenues, but I think that sometimes we get too caught up into the whole, you have to do this every day.
Right.
And, like, because one of the sayings that are always told, and I know, you know, like, man, I hate this saying, is like, if you don't put this first, you're gonna lose everything, right? And for me, I look at it like, yeah, well, when I put something first, I do lose these things, and, like, I have to put my mental health first.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when we say define recovery, this is where it gets tricky, because some people define recovery, but they don't realize that they're not in recovery, right? Just like when you were describing, while I was still drinking, and I was doing better than I was, right? But you were still miserable.
Right.
So, like, it's not really, you're not doing good.
No, yeah,
right?
not at all.
So it's like when I tell people to define recovery for me, I always mean like you have to look honest in yourself and say, what about you on the inside has changed? Because if you're not changing anything, then you're not in recovery.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's pretty simple. And for some people, and like I met a couple people where they're like, yeah, I don't do heroin anymore. I still smoke weed. I work a job and I'm fine.
Right.
I'm okay with that. If you're okay with that, so be it.
Right.
How is it though we can make sure that you don't go back to here, right? And I think this is where people need to start being more honest with themselves. Because I've watched people lose their life over going to the gym. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
we can definitely put things into, and I think that was one thing that I did this time was I put things into healthy things, but like not like over the top. I mean, I know going to the gym is a healthy thing, but like I just didn't like overindulge completely with it. And also just to backtrack, I wasn't trying to bash anybody, you know, life experience wise or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I know what you were saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you know, I think what's wrong sometimes is that the program's supposed to be about honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, right?
And we put like, ego in.
So, like, where's the open-mindedness?
Yeah. And that's a great point, right? Is like, where's that at, you know? I had somebody at a conference argue with me about religion, and I was like, stop. Like, this isn't a religious program, number one. Number two, like, where's your open-minded? Just because I don't believe in the same thing that you believe in, like, doesn't mean that we're both wrong.
Right.
It just means that, like, I respect that you believe in that. Like, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Like, that's awesome. I'm glad that you have something you believe in. It's not what I believe in. I don't have to agree with you. You know what I mean? Like, my opinion doesn't matter. You know, we don't have to agree. We can still love each other.
Religion and politics are two things that I typically don't even like to talk about.
I try so hard to stay out of it. You know? So hard. You know? But what are you doing now, man? Because you got the 4 years, like 4.5 years. So how are you doing it now?
So I started.
That's different.
Started, like I said, I was going to the meetings again, and just trying to, like, I guess kind of like you were saying, like, I didn't really have anything going on, so like I should keep myself busy, and it helps with the loneliness too, you know, because like
100%.
When we come into recovery, you know, we're hopeless, we're lonely, we need something, you know, like otherwise we're going to gravitate what we're used to, you know.
Well, we need people for sure.
Yeah. So I started doing that and just kind of just being there, and I was being honest this time, you know, like because I had realized about the whole how ridiculous it was that like I wasn't telling people about like her cheating on me and stuff like that back then. So like I would go in and I would just like I would just say shit that was like unhinged sometimes but I would also like, because I'm mindful enough not to just dump and then leave, you know, like I would dump, but I would have like either a solution or like a way that I'm going to get to that solution, you know, type of thing. Because like a lot of those things aren't like just overnight type things that I can go through. Like I was a hot mess, man, like in and out of recovery, back and forth, just like not knowing truly, like I think the problem was like I was trying to pretend so much still in recovery, just pretend, you know, like this last time around I'm sitting there and I don't get me wrong, the viewers, please. I love my daughter. I love her to death. She's my everything. I sacrifice a lot for her. She lives with me. I do a lot. I was at a meeting. We were outside. I'm looking at this family. They're taking pictures outside. And I realize I don't want that. I don't want, like, the constructs of what society is, you know, for me. I want something different, you know, and I love her to death, and I give her everything. She's my world. She is, and so I started to try to grow into more of myself, because I was still pushing whoever I was down, like, and at this time too, like I was working at a facility as a counselor, and the beautiful thing too is, like, while I was doing that, because I was reaching out to different avenues, I started like venturing down different paths of 12-step programs to kind of like give people some different horizons to seek. And there's a lot out there, like there's a lot of different
There's some really cool ones
there truly is. I mean, I give it to them, like there's different avenues and different things and different approaches, and I love that, because like I don't think we can put recovery in a box, like recovery has to be continuously adapting and changing as the world changes and adapts, as we change and adapt, like it has to, because like what worked forever ago isn't going to work for everybody, like, and so like let's try to give everybody like a chance, at something, to give them different avenues. And so like I was looking into that, and like I said, I was reading different literatures and stuff like that, not even just recovery based, just like different things to open up my mind more, to try to like gravitate into something that was more my spiritual self, and so like I'm getting my mental health back, I'm getting my physical health back, I'm getting my spiritual health back, and I'm growing on those.
Don't brush over the fact that your daughter lives with you now.
Oh yeah,
right, because that was just a huge moment that you just kind of was just like, yeah, my daughter lives with me, and like da 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 da, like that's a huge thing,
it
right?
Is.
And like that's a lot of hope that I hope that the listeners hear too, is like, no matter what, like if you just get sober and you start doing the next right thing and you start putting these things into motion, you can have that relationship. Because like I have a lot of people that will be like, man, I'm never getting my kids back, and I'm like, don't say that. Like I know a lot of people that have their child back that lives with them now,
Let me tell you too, since we're touching on this, so the time before that I seen her, before I went to my last rehab here, my ex-wife called her mom to come down to get her because I was being an unfit dad. I was so hungover that I didn't even say goodbye to her whenever she left to go back to Pennsylvania from Florida. And that's where it was. That's where so she's seen some of the darkest sides of me. And we talk about that. Me and her, we talk just like we're talking. Like I don't sugarcoat anything for her, and she appreciates that. Like she's 16, and like she needs to know some stuff.
Well, I mean that's good, right? Because at that age, like, that's usually the age where it's like the addiction's lurking.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That line is getting a little blurry. So, I mean, that's awesome that you have that relationship where you can have those conversations, and like generational pain, right? We get to stop that generational cycle, where you have the ability to stop that generational cycle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And now she's like from seeing the darkest parts of me, she's able to see some of the brightest,
Yeah.
And that's because of recovery, to be able to grow into, I think recovery for me is being able to grow into my most authentic self.
Yeah.
And that's what I recognized this time. and there's a lot of hurdles, and there's a lot of walls, and a lot of things that you have to break down or jump over to be able to get there. And I'm not even, I don't even think I'm like close to there, but I'm closer, you know, like, and that's beautiful to me, you know, like, because like I see like these parts of myself, but then like I'm reminded too, like that there's still like more, you know, like there's still something else. And like just recently, like we went on this road trip, and during this road trip, there was, because I have not been the best at practicing my spiritual self for probably a good year and a half, you know, or so. And so there's a lot of reminders. And I love that, because like that to me is my spiritual stuff, you know, like I feel the universe speaks to all of us, you know. Like,
absolutely.
And like it gives us and I think it was always doing that. It's just I couldn't recognize it in my addiction, but it would always leave these little like trails, you know, like here, you know, here you go. And so like to be able to like, and the thing that sucks is like it's always whenever like I can stop and not do anything that I can start to see that, because I think that's the thing with life, and being so busy with life is sometimes like we miss those little nods, you know, and it's important for me to stop and smell the flowers, you know?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Then I can see a little bit more clear, and see in a different perspective of things, and see what maybe is lacking, you know, and what I need maintenance on. Because like, even if I'm okay with and want to be complacent, I shouldn't. You know,
right. You never should.
And so like I try to do that for myself, you know, to at least do something to give of myself, and that, I think that's pretty much what I have done this time, is like almost like what you were saying, like growing a support group. Some of them in the 12-step program, some of them not, you know, and then having some type of stability in life, you know, like my daughter living with me now, and then I started pretty much I started piercing, and so this is kind of funny, because I had stopped counseling. I had to step away, and like for my own well-being, and I recognized that. So I stepped away from that, and an ex of mine was a piercer, and they needed somebody there, so I started apprenticing there, not realizing like what would transpire out of that. I just knew I needed to do something, you know,
right.
But I didn't know where I was going to go from there, because I was putting like everything. My eggs were in counseling basket, you know, like that's where I was heading, you know, for my career. And then once I decided to step away from that, I needed to find somewhere else to kind of lay my head. And so like I started doing that, and when I started piercing, like I don't know if I said it before we started the podcast, but when I started piercing, I realized that I had suppressed a lot of my artistic self. And so like when that studio was teaching me how to do things, and the different things that I didn't know was possible with piercings, because in my eyes, like I'm from a small town, it's pretty much, here's your basic ass jewelry, like here's a hole, see you later, you know, type of thing. And here it was like showing like, oh, you can take the ear and you can decorate it in a certain way where it's like aesthetically pleasing for, and so like it was like, oh, this is something different to me, and I really like enjoyed it and started doing it, and so my sister, who's also in recovery, I was telling her all about this because she's one of my supports, and I was just telling her, I said, yeah, I'm stepping away from counseling. She's like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. I'll work at Sheets. Whatever. You know, whatever falls into my lap. and then I tell her that I'm moving over to Ohio to start this apprenticeship, and then I tell her that I'm moving back and I'm going to open up my own shop at some point, and all this. So I do all this. I do it. I started piercing in Meadville at a tattoo shop there. Thankful for that owner because she just rented out the back room for me, which allowed me to grow into what I am now. So now I have my own spot where I pierce at, and once I got that and everything going, my sister called me and we were talking, and she was like, I thought you were batshit crazy, right? And, like you're stopping something that's like a career thing for you that you put in a lot of time and effort to get into. Then you were talking about this or that, working at Sheets or whatever, and then you move to Ohio, then you move back and you're going to do this, but you do it, and like all I knew what to do was to be there to support you, and to love you, and so that's what I did. But I thought you were crazy, know.
It sounds crazy.
It is. Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's awesome, right? Because you believed in yourself, and like that's fucking recovery to me, right? Is being able to say like I believe in myself, and I know I can't do this anymore because it takes a lot. And I've been in this field for a long time, and like it takes a lot when somebody says, I need to step away for a minute because I'm not being beneficial to the client, right? Because like at the end of the day, the clients are always the main priority, right? And like when we can say to ourselves, like, I'm not being good enough for me, so I know they're suffering, I got to step away. To me, I commend that a lot, right? Because like I don't care how long you're in this field. There's been times where I'm like, I got to step away, and I've gone and worked some wild ass job just because it was like I need to get back before I can go back into counseling. I got to do this, right? So it's awesome that you were able to say, I believe in myself, I'm gonna go do this. Because sometimes, part of life in general is like I got to take a risk, and even if I fail, at least I tried something different, right. So it's awesome that you were able to recognize that, do that.
And that's the thing too, is like I come to realize, I think sometimes too, because I know we've talked about how like stepping away from the 12-step programs and stuff like that, and some of the things that people may say to you whenever you're deciding to do that. And I know one of them is talking about like being selfish because we're supposed to give away what to keep what we have, we must give it away or whatever, and but there's other ways to do that.
Well, you do, right? And like you are, right? So like when we say step away from the 12-step programs, make it clear that we're only saying the particular one,
right,
to the viewer, right? Because there are tons of different there's tons of different ways into recovery. It's not always the main two that are the forms of recovery, right?
Right.
And like I don't want to use their names on the podcast because they, I believe in the traditions and the steps and like all that. So we don't use the main two's names, but like the listener knows. And there's a million different ones out there, right? There's actually 417 in America, self-help groups. So like there's all these different ways, man. All these different ways. You gotta figure out which way works for you. And I'll tell you, because it's funny, because like my girlfriend, like when you came in, she was like, "Oh, you're the guy who pierced my nose or whatever." But when she got that done, she was telling me, I remember her talking about, she was like, "I think one of the people that was piercing me must have been one of your guys." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Because she's not in the program. And I'm like, "What do you mean one of my guys?" And she's like, "I don't know, he was saying some stuff that was like recovery stuff." And she's like, "I don't know." She was like, "I felt guilty. I just wanted to go have a drink." And she was like, "Your people make me feel guilty." And I laugh at that because she doesn't come to. She's not one of us. So And by one of us, I mean she's not a full-blown drug addict or alcoholic like we were. So she can have like a drink like a normal human being.
Right. Yeah.
You know, we drink and commit felonies. They drink and go to bed, and there's a big difference. You know, so like you are still carrying that message, and like you are still like providing. I'll tell you, like my tattoo artist is more beneficial to me than most because like he knows me better than anybody. So it doesn't matter what you're doing out there. There's a lot of people that are in a position where they're more beneficial to you than somebody else, right? So like I'm sure you have people that are general clients of yours that come for piercings that they're like, yeah, actually I want to go get this piercing, and it isn't even about the piercing. It's about like coming to talk to you. You know what I mean? I know my tattoo artist. I got some stupid ass tattoos. It ain't about getting a tattoo. Right? It's about like, man, I really need somebody to talk with, and I know he'll listen. I know he'll listen, and I know he's not going to judge me. And like that's what's important.
And that was the biggest like point that I wanted to do whenever I opened up that place, was to make it a safe place for everybody to be able to come to.
Are you going to tattoo out of it?
What's that?
You going to tattoo out of it?
Nope, just piercings. I wanted to be not a jack of all trades, master of none type of thing. So I'm constantly trying to learn to do better at my craft. You know, like I'm always looking into different things I can do, what I can do better. You know, all that stuff. So I'm always trying to make that my main priority. And if I feel like if I put tattooing on top of that, then that's gonna open up another thing that I'll have to like really put myself into, and I don't want to like spread that. You know, like I want to be able to hone my.
I meant bring another tattoo artist then.
Oh, I got you. So at this moment, my studio is pretty small. I do have an apprentice that's learning how to pierce at this moment. And eventually I do have like a couple, because the beautiful thing is while I was doing this, I've been able to meet some amazing people. Like you said, you know, like people come, and it's not always about the piercings, but just that relationship that you grow with people. And so like I've been able to have these intimate conversations with people and be able to grow these relationships. And there's been a few now, both of them now, well, the one that's an apprentice now used to be a client of mine, and her husband would come in, and we were just talking, and I was talking about, you know, needed somebody at some point for help, and he just like darted over to her, and like I was like, what? You know, and they're like, well, she's been wanting to do something like this. And I was like, all right. Because she just seemed like the fit. But like I'm very like selective with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to be.
Yeah, because one, it's my name that I'm putting out there with somebody. But two, like I said, I want this place to be a safe and loving, caring place for people to come in.
What's the name of it?
Outstabbing Curations.
It's in Meadville?
Yes.
And what's your address?
305 Chestnut Street.
Okay. We'll
plug.
Yeah. We'll put it in I'll put it in the description for you.
Awesome. But yeah, I mean, like even yesterday, it's funny because that we're talking about this. I had a couple that came in, and it just went into like a recovery conversation, and come to find out, the guy was 4 months in recovery at this time. And so I gave him my number because like I told him, I said, hey, because he didn't have anybody, you know, like, and he didn't know what to do, and like I gave him some pointers, you know, like and directions where to go, you know, to kind of start building supports, because he doesn't have any, and I was like, that's important. You need to start getting some people on your side, you know, like the right people.
Right.
And so I gave him my number, my personal number, because like I wanted to be able to be there for her. You know, like I still care, like
yeah,
for people that are in recovery. I care about anybody. Really.
I was going to say, I mean, I'd be concerned if you were like, yeah, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'd be like, okay, wait, hold on. You need to get your ass back to a meeting then, because, like, you're on the road to relapse, right? But, like, you're not. Like, you're definitely, like, on the right road, right? So, yeah, man, like, you've come a long way.
Absolutely.
You're doing good.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, I don't know if I really, like, went into, like, a depth detail of, like, what I'm doing now, but, like, it's just more or less, like, stuff that I learned along the way that I'm practicing more so in my life, So, like, that's why I don't go to meetings anymore, is because, like, I did what they told me to do, basically, like, they told me to practice this thing in my everyday life, and that's what I'm doing, and I have people around me, that I'm accountable, so, like, it's not like I think that's important too, like, to have some accountability, so, like,
absolutely.
But, like, it's just, it's really, I think we complicate things because how we are.
That's what we're good at.
And we just kind of just have to do, instead of, like, complicating it, and making it more than what it is. But I do dig deeper, and I try to give myself that, to have different levels of myself out, because, like, I want to be the Jesse, the most authentic Jesse that I can be, like, I think a lot of the problems before was why I would, like, want to use is because I was always pretending, and that's a lot of work to pretend that I'm not who I am,
Yeah.
And so it gets tiring, and then, like, I don't want to do it anymore, so I know what will destroy it, and so I go to what will destroy it. So I just don't want to pretend anymore, like, I just want to be able to be like, hey, like, this is me. I think one thing that is huge is that lady that I was telling you about that owns a business in Meadville. She told me, what people think of me is none of my fucking business.
My favorite saying.
And I was like, fuck, dude. And before that, like, I went to a meeting in Florida, and this guy was talking about, I had always tried to work on my reputation while I was in here, but come to find out that's not what I needed to work on. What I needed to work on was my character, because my character is who I am, and my reputation is who you think I am.
Absolutely.
And I was like, ooh. I was like, damn, like, okay, like, that makes sense, because I think that's something that I was always doing too. I was always trying to work on my reputation. I wanted you to see who I was in that light, not who I truly was, because I don't think I knew who I truly was.
No, and, like, the funny thing is like, when you live it like that, you're never gonna live up to it anyway. Right. Like, that's that expectation thing. Like, if I'm gonna try to be something that I think that you want, well, you're never gonna be. Right? Like, you can never live up to my expectations, just like I'll never live up to your expectations. And, like, when we remove that and we understand that, that's when we get into the mindset of, like, what you think of me is not my concern. That's your opinion of me. And your opinion of me is your perception of how I treated you in a situation. Your perception is not who the hell I am. You know what I mean? That's why, like, perception, I'm always big on perception. I try to, at least in the rehab facility, I teach these guys about perception every day, because that's the core root of our addiction, is how we see things. So it's crazy. So
It truly is.
All right, I'll make sure that your stuff gets in the bottom of the thing. So if you need a piercing, you guys know where to go.
You need stabbed consensually.
Right? All right, man. So I'm going to wrap this up. So as always, the whole point of this, you guys could have been anywhere in the world today, but you sat here and chose to be with us, so I appreciate you. And as always, man, I hope that you heard something today that you needed to hear to help you stay sober today. It's not about how long you're sober. What matters is if you can just make it today, then hopefully tomorrow looks a little bit brighter. So, we're just trying to help you get through one more day. I hope that you're able to get something. And tune in next week for another episode. So, I appreciate you. Thank
you for watching.